Hi, folks. Thanks for watching my monologue. As America starts to reopen, just remember that guns, etc., never closed. They still have over 10,200 square feet of ammo, firearms, and accessories, including safes, and they remain open for business. Stop by their huge store in Mesa or just click on gunsetcetera.com. And if you like my monologues, please subscribe to 960 The Patriots YouTube channel. Thanks. Welcome back and happy June 17th, 2020. Allen Ginsberg, the beat poet popular in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, once told the conservative editor of Commentary magazine, Norman Podhoretz, who wasn't buying into Ginsberg's worldview, he once told Norman, "We'll get you through your children." Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, as a friend on Twitter alerted me to an article in Teen Vogue. It's a couple years old, but still prevalent and still prominent on their website, and obviously still available to be sent around. Headline: Who is Karl Marx? Meet the anti-capitalist scholar. Close quote. Of course, as you can imagine, the whole thing is a whitewash, concluding in the first paragraph, quote, "The political philosopher turned 200 years old on May 5th, but his ideas can still teach us about the past and present." Close quote. Yes, they can teach us. What they should teach us is what not to do. But that's not what Teen Vogue is about. Some years ago, Irving Kristol wrote, perhaps prematurely, that socialism was facing its obituary. He put it this way, quote, "There's a dwindling band of socialist fideists who keep insisting that we must not judge socialism by any of its works. Soviet Union, they told us, was not socialist at all. Nor was China or Yugoslavia or Cuba or Hungary or all those other people's democracies. Neither, of course, were such regimes as existed in Peru or Syria or Zaire, who claimed to be socialist, but they're not taken seriously. As for Western countries with social democratic governments, such as Britain or Sweden, well, they get a passing grade for effort, but it seems they are insufficiently resolute or intelligent to bring true socialism about. This is all quite ridiculous, of course. Socialism is what socialism does. The plaintive lament of the purist that socialism, or capitalism, or Christianity has never really been tried is simply the expression of petulance and obstinacy on the part of ideologues who, convinced that they have a more profound understanding than anyone else of the world and its history, now find that they have been living huge self-deception. People who persist in calling themselves socialists while decrying the three-quarters of the world that has proclaimed itself socialist and who can find a socialist country nowhere but in their imaginings, such people are anachronisms. As such, they do serve a purpose. They help the historian and scholar understand what socialists used to think socialism was all about. One could discover that from reading books, to be sure, but it's sometimes enlightening to interview an actual survivor. Close quote. And what do you hear from an actual survivor? Well, their statements have been available, whether it's the callers to this show or Alexander Solzhenitsyn or Anatoly Sharansky. They are proliferant, but they are not represented in Teen Vogue. Let us understand, please, what the culture wants you to have in vogue, and don't let them try and get you through your children. They are trying. And as Inez Stepman wrote and put it on the show yesterday, injustice, unfairness, and bigotry are, indeed, an ineradicable part of life. But America is not a systematically racist society. Far from being fruit of a rotten tree, America's founding principles form the best recipe for racial harmony and rebuked inequality yet devised by man. Don't take my word for it. Take Martin Luther King Jr.'s. He called our founding beautiful and magnificent. His words. Don't take my word for it. Take Frederick Douglass's. In his famous 1852 essay on the 4th of July, used by the leftists to tell us how much he disliked America, he wrote, "The arm of the Lord is not shortened, and the doom of slavery is certain. I therefore leave off where I began, with hope, while drawing encouragement from the Declaration of Independence, the great principles it contains, and the genius of American institutions. My spirit is cheered by the obvious tendencies of the age." Close quote. You don't get encouragement or the words great principles or the genius of American institutions from the modern age, though, do you? Much less anything that might look like spirits cheered or hope or optimism. So where does the poisonous anti-American idea, acceptance of which seems to be toppling institution after institution, come from, especially after the United States has advanced so far in living up to the promises of its birth? As many of us warned years ago, the radical ideas born on campus have already metastasized across society. Today, K-12 public schools across the country increasingly teach some version of the lie. The error-ridden, America-hating 1619 Project and its associated Pulitzer-endorsed Common Core compliant lesson materials, they're already being taught in more than 3,500 schools across the country. Anecdotally, even more superintendents are responding to the current unrest by promising to adopt the 1619 curriculum. The problem will get worse, Stepman writes, before it gets better. How much worse? A lot. We're looking at it today, including in Seattle, including in Atlanta. An Atlanta police officer now faces 11 charges, including felony murder, which could potentially lead to a death penalty for the killing of one Rayshard Brooks. I, of course, do not know all of the facts. Here's what I do know. A drunk driver blocks a public accommodation with his car. He fails a field sobriety test after the police show up. Right now, anyone, you, me, anyone in this fact pattern would be arrested for DUI or DWI and brought into a police station for booking. That's not what happened. This man fought down 2 policemen in resisting arrest. He put them down. One man took down 2 policemen. He then stole a taser gun off the police. Inebriated, with a stolen weapon taken from a police officer, he ran. To where he was heading, we do not know. Now, some idiots say the cops should have let him run. Just run. Really? An inebriated man with a stolen weapon who resisted arrest should have been allowed to run into a community at 11 p.m. at night? Do you want to live in a community or the community that allows or encourages that? The police gave chase. The man with the stolen weapon, which, by the way, the ACLU tells us is a lethal weapon, the taser, fires it at one of the 2 police officers. That officer fires back with a gun and kills him. Now 11 charges, including felony murder against the policeman. Is that a normal reaction and response from a sane society? Will it lead to better policing, or will it just lead to less police? Do you want less police? Find me one friend of yours who wants less police in his or her community. Yes, avowed socialists like Ilhan Omar say they want less. She was on the Sunday shows backing that point up. I can understand why. She has a few problems with the law. And of course, the revolution is always easier without any mediating institutions or the law or forces of composition. If mobs are what you want, be prepared for mob rule. I'll tell you the world I would rather. A kid is born. He or she has a mom and dad. At least one of them has a job. The child has a good school in his or her neighborhood to go to. By good, I mean there is discipline and there is a curriculum that teaches math and science and the English language and history well. The child has friends. He or she may even ride their bike to school when they are old enough. There are no drugs in the school, and there is no drug use by the children in or after school. The parents are involved in the school, and the child is involved in after-school activities like sports or cheer or something like the Boys and Girl Scouts. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? What happened to that country? It still exists in many places, but it doesn't in Chicago, and it doesn't in Detroit, and it doesn't in Philadelphia, and it doesn't in many other places, including Phoenix. Why does it not? I had a caller yesterday who asked in a Pascalian wager-type bargain, if conservatives win, what is there to be afraid of? If liberals or the left win, what is there to be afraid of? Well, the answer to the second is the world of America I give you today. The answer to the first sounds pretty good, though, still, doesn't it? Don't we wish we had the world I described? Left-leaning or right-leaning? Riddle me this, left. Do you have kids who like to have their lunch money stolen? Do you have girls who like to be grabbed against their will? Do you have boys who like to be bullied and beaten up? The color of their national origin or religion of the child shouldn't matter. There are certain common values that are virtues, which would lead anyone to say, no, that behavior's wrong. Those virtues today we might call dreams. But why are they dreams? Because the left, including the management of our major cities, have turned their iconoclastic permanent revolutionary notions based on Marx or their own solipsistic hatred of the middle-class virtues into a nightmare for so and too many. And that, Teen Vogue and everyone else, is your first hint that Marx just wasn't all that great. Marx's dream was to bring heaven down to earth. Instead, that never happened. The nightmare came to too many by bringing hell up to it rather than heaven down to it. Resist it, please. Become a real resistance if you want, and resist the counterculture. It's too fast becoming the main and normal culture. Don't let it happen, and don't let them get to you through your children. I'm Seth Leibson. We'll be right back.